Every night, millions of people swallow castor oil hoping it will fix something broken inside them. Nobody tells them what actually happens the moment that oil enters their body at night. Tonight, we are going to walk through the entire journey, second by second, organ by organ. This is not a wellness tip. This is your biology, explained with total honesty and zero sugarcoating. Castor oil has existed for thousands of years, used across ancient Egypt, India, and traditional medicine worldwide. But what once was a carefully supervised remedy has now become a nightly ritual for millions of people. Social media has turned this thick, pale yellow oil into a symbol of internal cleansing and effortless weight loss. 1 teaspoon before bed, they say, and your body will purge everything toxic while you sleep peacefully. That promise sounds simple and beautiful, but your biology tells a completely different and far more complex story. The story begins the moment that oil touches your tongue and starts its slow, heavy journey downward. The first thing you notice is not flavor. You notice the strange, almost suffocating thickness of the liquid. That thickness has a scientific name. It is called high kinematic viscosity, and it is not accidental. Castor oil is thick because roughly 90% of it is made of one very unusual fatty acid. That fatty acid is called ricinoleic acid, and it behaves nothing like the fats your body expects. Normal dietary fats, like those in olive oil, are nonpolar. They slide through digestion without causing alarm. Ricinoleic acid is different. It carries a hydroxyl group on its 12th carbon that makes it chemically aggressive. This tiny molecular hook makes the fat polar, sticky, and immediately recognized by your body as something foreign.
Your tongue sends the first signal. Your brain receives it and registers this substance as a biological outsider. From an evolutionary standpoint, your body knows this oil comes from the same plant as ricin poison. Ricin is one of the most lethal natural toxins ever identified by modern science and biochemistry. Commercial castor oil is processed to remove the toxic protein, but your ancient biology does not fully trust that. Your nervous system flags ricinoleic acid as a xenobiotic, meaning a chemical with no normal role in your metabolism. Within 30 minutes of swallowing, the oil reaches your stomach, and here the first real resistance begins. Your stomach is designed to break down fats using acid, enzymes, and carefully timed mechanical churning movements, but ricinoleic acid resists this process. Its unique polarity allows it to float stubbornly above your gastric juices. This creates pressure inside the stomach that your body reads not as digestion, but as a chemical threat. Your pyloric sphincter, the gate between your stomach and small intestine, begins to hesitate and stall the process. The vagus nerve carries an urgent distress signal upward from your stomach directly to your brain's warning center. Your brain receives this signal and immediately begins calculating whether to vomit or push the threat forward. This calculation happens in the area postrema, a tiny region of the brain designed specifically for poison detection. The nausea you feel during this phase is not weakness. It is an ancient and intelligent survival system activating. At 60 minutes, if the oil bypasses vomiting, it crosses into your small intestine called the duodenum. This is where the most dramatic and irreversible part of the entire biological sequence actually begins unfolding.
Your pancreas senses the incoming fat and releases powerful enzymes called lipases to begin breaking it down. Those enzymes finally split the oil apart, releasing free ricinoleic acid directly into your intestinal environment. Now this free acid becomes a molecular key searching for a very specific and dangerous lock in your gut. Your intestinal lining contains specialized receptors called EP3 and EP4 prostaglandin receptors waiting on the wall. These receptors are normally reserved for prostaglandins, the chemicals your body uses to signal pain and inflammation. When ricinoleic acid locks into these receptors, it does not whisper. It screams a full emergency signal. Your enteric nervous system, which contains over 100 million neurons, receives that scream and enters full hyperarousal. This second brain running along your entire gut now has one single overriding mission: expel the threat immediately. Normal gut movement is slow and rhythmic, a gentle wave pattern called migrating motor complexes moving softly forward. Under ricinoleic acid, those gentle waves transform instantly into violent, rapid, full-forced muscular contractions throughout the intestine. Your smooth muscle tissue begins wringing itself like a wet cloth being twisted by two very powerful hands. The goal is singular and brutal: Move whatever is inside your gut toward the exit as fast as possible. By the 2-hour mark, your body escalates its emergency response to a level that affects your entire physiology. Your intestines need a liquid highway to flush the irritant out, and they will steal that water from you. Normally, your colon and small intestine absorb water from digested food back into your bloodstream constantly and efficiently.
Now that logic reverses completely. Your intestinal walls begin pumping water out of your blood and into the gut. This reverse osmosis is driven by the disruption of a transporter called the NKCC1 sodium-potassium chloride cotransporter. Liters of fluid packed with critical electrolytes are pulled from your tissues and dumped into the intestinal canal. Your blood volume begins dropping. Your heart detects this and starts beating faster to compensate for the loss. This accelerated heart rate is called compensatory tachycardia, and it is your cardiovascular system responding to acute crisis. Your body interprets this blood volume drop as a threat to survival and activates the fight-or-flight response. This is why many people feel a sudden wave of anxiety or dread during this phase of the process. That feeling is not psychological. It is a direct physiological response to falling blood pressure and rising stress hormones. Meanwhile, the loss of potassium from your blood begins affecting the electrical signals running through your heart muscle. This condition is called hypokalemia, and in people with existing heart sensitivity, it can become genuinely dangerous. Between hours 3 and 5, the body reaches the final and most dramatic stage, the complete evacuation flush. You step on the scale and see several pounds gone, and for a moment the number feels like victory. But those pounds are not fat. They are water, electrolytes, gut flora, and protective mucosal tissue lining. Your microbiome, the trillions of bacteria that regulate immunity, mood, and metabolism, is being violently swept away right now. Beneficial species like lactobacillus and bifidobacterium are physically scrubbed from your gut wall by the hydraulic force rushing through.
This creates a state called acute dysbiosis, where the balance of your internal microbial ecosystem collapses temporarily. The damage goes even deeper than bacteria. Your gut-associated lymphoid tissue represents approximately 70% of your immune system. This tissue is now in a state of high alert, stripped of its first and most critical line of defense. The glycocalyx, a thin but vital mucus layer coating the gut wall, is being washed away along with everything else. That mucus barrier is the only thing standing between your bloodstream and the billions of toxins in your waste. Without it, your gut wall becomes temporarily permeable, allowing endotoxins to pass directly into your bloodstream and circulate. This condition is known clinically as transient intestinal permeability, and the internet simply calls it leaky gut syndrome. In the 48 hours following this event, your entire immune system is measurably more vulnerable to systemic inflammation. The story does not end in the bathroom. What follows is what we should call the biological hangover phase. Your body has just lost significant amounts of potassium, magnesium, and sodium in a very short time span. Without adequate potassium and magnesium, your nerve cells cannot fire with their normal precision and electrical efficiency. This is why people report muscle weakness, mental fog, and a strange heaviness in the days that follow. Your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the HPA axis, has also been disrupted by this entire cascading stress event. Cortisol, your primary stress hormone, spikes following the episode and remains elevated for longer than most people realize. Elevated cortisol increases fat storage, suppresses immune function, disrupts sleep quality, and accelerates cellular aging over time. If someone repeats this process regularly, something far more permanent begins happening to the structure of the colon itself. The smooth muscles that line the colon depend on a property called myogenic tone to contract naturally and independently. Repeated chemical stimulation causes these muscles to become dependent on that external irritant to move waste at all. Over time, the colon simply stops initiating natural contractions without the chemical prompt it has been trained to expect. This is called laxative dependency, and it is one of the most common long-term consequences of habitual castor oil use. Under a microscope, the intestinal lining of someone with this pattern shows a condition called melanosis coli developing. This appears as a dark leopard skin staining pattern caused by dying epithelial cells and pigment-loaded macrophages accumulating inside. It is not a cleansing sign. It is a visible indicator of structural and cellular tissue damage occurring over time. Now, let us address the claim that castor oil detoxifies your liver, because this myth is worth dismantling completely.
Your liver is already the most sophisticated detoxification system that biology has ever produced over millions of years. It runs continuous phase 1 and phase 2 enzymatic detox pathways every single second of every single day automatically. When you are dehydrated from a castor oil flush, your blood becomes more concentrated and viscous than it should be. Your liver must now work significantly harder to process the sudden chemical and inflammatory load this event creates. The EP3 receptor activation throughout your intestines releases inflammatory cytokines that travel directly to the liver through the portal vein. You are not cleaning your liver. You are generating extra work for it while simultaneously dehydrating the entire system. The idea of needing to flush the liver comes from a 19th century medical theory called auto-intoxication. This theory claimed that waste sitting in the colon was slowly poisoning the body from the inside out constantly. Modern gastroenterology, immunology, and biochemistry have entirely and thoroughly debunked this theory with overwhelming scientific evidence. Your kidneys, liver, lymphatic system, and skin already perform continuous, precise, enzyme-driven detoxification without any external assistance needed. They do not need a reset. They need hydration, adequate sleep, whole nutrition, and freedom from unnecessary chemical stress. Now let us talk about what castor oil actually can do when used correctly and under proper medical supervision. Clinically, castor oil is an approved and effective stimulant laxative for specific cases of acute and severe constipation. When a patient is clinically constipated and a doctor prescribes a measured dose, it performs a legitimate medical function. It stimulates the intestinal muscles enough to initiate a bowel movement that the body has been unable to produce. In that controlled context, the short-term disruption is accepted because the clinical benefit outweighs the temporary physiological cost. Topically, castor oil applied to the skin has genuine anti-inflammatory and moisturizing properties supported by real clinical research. Some studies support its use for dry scalp, joint inflammation, and minor wound care when applied externally with consistency. These are the legitimate and evidence-based applications that castor oil actually deserves credit for in modern wellness conversations. But swallowing a teaspoon every night in hopes of dissolving fat or purging toxins is an entirely different matter. To lose 1 pound of actual adipose tissue, your mitochondria must oxidize approximately 3,500 calories of stored body fat. No flush, no purge, no osmotic evacuation can bypass that fundamental equation without violating the first law of thermodynamics. The weight lost after castor oil is water, electrolytes, and microbiome, all of which return within 24 to 48 hours. What does not return as quickly is the mucosal lining, the microbial diversity, and the nerve tone you lost. So what does the right way to use castor oil at night actually look like in practical scientific terms? If you are dealing with occasional constipation, speak to a doctor before using castor oil even once at home. A clinical dose is not a teaspoon taken casually. It is a measured, supervised, one-time medical intervention only. If you are applying it topically at night for skin, scalp, or joint issues, that is a far safer choice. Warm the oil slightly, apply it to the target area, cover it, and allow it to absorb while you sleep. This method delivers the anti-inflammatory benefits of ricinoleic acid without sending it through your digestive system at all. For anyone genuinely seeking nightly metabolic support, the science points in a very different and far more sustainable direction. Stabilizing your blood sugar before bed with a small protein-rich snack reduces overnight cortisol and supports fat metabolism. Prioritizing 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep increases growth hormone, which directly drives fat oxidation during rest. Managing insulin sensitivity through resistance training and low glycemic nutrition builds the metabolic foundation that no oil can replicate.
Supporting your gut microbiome with fermented foods, prebiotic fiber, and adequate hydration does more than any flush ever could. These are not quick fixes. They are the steady, logical, biological levers that your body actually responds to long term. True internal health is not built through chemical trauma, emergency evacuations, or forcing your organs into survival mode nightly. It is built through consistency, understanding, and working with your body's feedback systems rather than constantly overriding them forcefully. Your gut is not a pipe that needs flushing. It is a living ecosystem that needs protection, nourishment, and respect. Your liver is not a filter that needs resetting. It is a precision organ that needs support, not more stress. The next time you see a viral post promising internal purity from 1 teaspoon of oil taken before bed tonight, remember what you now know about prostaglandin receptors, osmotic reversal, dysbiosis, cortisol spikes, and myogenic tone loss. That knowledge is the only detox your decision-making process will ever genuinely need going forward from this moment on. The more clearly you understand your own biology, the less power a 30-second wellness trend will ever hold over you. Stay grounded in the science, protect your ecosystem, and make every decision from a place of understanding, not fear.